another AFK Conversations. Here we are, AFK Convos, episode 4, the time we played Grandmaster Nightfalls, question mark. I'm joined as always by my wonderful and lovely host and co-host, Huck and Katya.
Hello!
Yay. So yeah, today's kind of little main topic story, or I guess really discussion point, I think is the better way to phrase it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is sort of like Nightfalls and Grandmaster Nightfall in particular. Let's see, sorry. If you're tuning in live or if you're watching the YouTube recording of this later, here you'll see me. We just scheduling wise, just like couldn't quite get the time to settle in like true Grandmaster Nightfall. So Storm is a bit of a false bill of sale here in a way.
Yeah,
this
apologies.
is me soloing the 1080 Nightfall, or attempting to, as I would like to say, because this it's fun. It's actually really fun. I really like this as a Nightfall, as an ordeal. But it's a toughie. It's a real toughie. I brought in too much light. Oh my gosh.
Oh, please be more professional with your lighting.
I'm trying.
Before we jump into the Grandmaster Nightfall stuff, though, I do want to talk about the Solstice armor.
Yes.
Because there's been a bit of a hubbub about the glowiness of the armor. You do get a free glow, it turns out, if you completely upgrade the armor. You'll get like a white glow, and so it doesn't change with your subclass or anything, and that's the quote-unquote free glow that you get.
Taking place of masterworking your armor this go around for the Solstice armor, which
is kind of a bummer, honestly, because it was nice to have that free masterwork upgrade for a set.
So was Shadowkeep when they did Armor 2.0? Is that right?
Oh my gosh! Don't ask me timelines. Who knows?
I think that's the truth of it.
I think that is right, because I think that was the last time I played with my Warlock, and when I signed on, it was here, pick up your 2.0 armor set.
Right. And so I think that's what's interesting about this is because oh my gosh, getting a call. I'll have to take that later. The last time we did it, the reason why it made sense we got Masterwork armor is because the investment system was different even then too, right? So the last time we did Solstice and got Masterwork stuff, it gave us a different benefit, right? So now it's instead of Masterworking, you can unlock the glow or whatever. And so it's a weird trade-off that they've kind of done, and it's not any false promises or a weird bait and switch, but
they never just out the gate were oh, you're gonna get all of these things and or anything like that. But I think it was just it was just a little going from getting a completely masterworked gear set to getting a gear set that you still have to invest all the materials in, and all you get is just the white glow, is just kind of a bummer, because the only way to get the subclass glows is to buy the ornaments, which that's not even an actual armor set. That's just an ornament that you put on any armor set. So and in order to, well, actually, can't you just buy, when can you buy, once you upgrade your armor to purple, you can buy the ornament.
It unlocks the ability, in the Eververse store for you to purchase the.
So you can't just buy it right out the gate,
which
but
is good.
You still have access to it pretty quickly. You just have to get through that initial blue set, and that's probably per character, isn't it? I'm not sure, because I didn't check the ornaments.
Yeah, actually, we never looked at that when we. Shoot.
I'm gonna assume that it is, since it is an ornament.
I think it is gonna be per character, would be my guess too, just because it makes sense to me that
That's how it would unlock.
Because I mean, you can't buy like say like a Dune Marcher ornament for your Titan if you're
No,
playing
you
a
have
Warlock,
to be
right?
on
You have
that.
to be on that
You have
character.
to be on that class now.
So
Yeah,
I think
they
it would
changed
be locked too.
that. Yeah. So
Your particular character.
don't quote us on that. We don't know anything.
We're right. Amateur professionals. That's fine.
But what else? What was I gonna say about that? I'm happy with it. I think like the ornament, I really like that option. But like my only kind of gripe is that the white glow actually looks really really cool.
It looks really
kind
good.
of
I'm a
I'm
big
kind of
fan.
bummed that like it's only on that armor set. I kind of wish the ornament like I don't know gave you the option to have just the white glow because
Yeah.
like it looks really neat.
I wish, well, and that's sort of like something we talked about too. It's like, it's kind of a bummer that before, I mean, like, you bought each individual subclass set. So you bought the Void Glow, the Solar Glow, the Arc Glow, and then you could apply it as you wanted. I'm just remembering a lot of silly things as I'm looking at the strike footage too. But that was like kind of a cool thing that you could do, because then you could like mix and match. You can be like, oh, Void Chest, Arc Arms, like Solar Face, like do all this mix and match kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
you could have like a rainbow
right
setup
and
of
like
your armor. It was really cool.
that would be really neat if you used and unlocked the final. What is it? Is it Magnificent or is it Majestic? It's one of those two.
Majestic.
Is it Majestic?
think
Whenever you
so.
get to the final set and it's like do the pit, do the Altered Sorrows, do the Trials, like that's when you unlock the glow and stuff. That would have been really cool if it then, like you said, like unlocked it as like an ornament set. And like once again, who knows? Maybe by the time we get Transmog to come around for us, we get access to that stuff again.
Yeah,
the way we
that's
want.
true.
So
I mean, it's a little nitpicky. I think like
It is.
overall, it's they did a really great job on the armor sets. I actually think the Warlock armor set is the best out of all of them, and I don't even play my Warlock anymore. But it's
yeah.
it looks really good. Hey Joe.
Hi Joe. Hi.
But just be prepared to spend a lot of bright dust if you plan to get the ornaments for all three characters, because it is either $15 in silver per set
Yeah.
or 6,000 bright dust per set. So
Which
it's,
like
I think my
expensive.
other gripe about that is that if you had purchased it on one character, I wish like you would get a discount each
Subsequent. I got you.
time that you buy it, because
Yeah.
it's like like 6,000 bright dust is not something to just kind of scoff at. It's a hefty price for since they changed the bright dust system. So I think that's like my only complaint about everything. I feel like the grind really wasn't too horrible.
No.
I like that they did the extra XP for the additional characters, because
That was really nice.
yeah, it makes things go like very quickly, and it just is like not as grindy, but you still have to work to get it. So I like
Yeah.
that. I like that kind of compromise.
Well, and they definitely didn't have that kind of benefit last time either. It was full grind for all your characters who wanted the armor, which is like why I was just like, oh my god. What
it's like,
doing?
can I do this again
Yeah,
this year?
like, I'm just like, oh.
Do I have the time to give
Do I have the
this?
force of will?
Yeah. So it's I think all of the changes have been really, really smart on their part, and really thoughtful for the players. And I like that they have a balance between players who like want to sink time into content, and then players who might not have as much time to sink time into content. I think like this was a really good kind of compromise for both sides of that. So
The thing too that I think I really enjoyed is it gave us it may be one of the best balanced grinds for reward that we've had in the game in a long time, as far as I can like remember in recent memory. Because like honestly, like a lot of the grind that they've given us, I'm looking at you, fucking Reckoning and Black Army, sorry for the curse, but it's like that stuff is insanely brutal. Those grinds, like to get those titles and like the stuff that it asks you to do in those seasons is like nightmarish, honestly. And like, yes, it's a grind. Yeah, you gave us a grind, but it's like that was like it's honestly swinging the pendulum full tilt the other way. Yeah, like I'd like to feel sane by the end of this thing, and yet there went about like 2 months ago. So anyways, the changes they made so far I definitely agree have been in my opinion, well. I've received them well. So
Yeah, I feel good about this event. If this is like any kind of marker to show like how we can expect future events to be,
mhm.
I think this was a really good like foot to step on, like
Yeah,
to start off on. So
a good foot forward in that
yeah,
direction.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't know
So
if you really want to be stomping on toesies here.
well, it's true. This is true.
I'm making fun. I'm teasing.
Okay.
I'm teasing.
But one of the things that you have to do for the Solstice armor to get the Majestic this
Sweet
go
glow.
around is you have to do a Master Nightfall. Which is this one that you're doing is considered Master, right? 'Cause it's
This is
1080.
1080. Yeah, so you're watching me, like I
So
said, solo attempt at 1080 Nightfall.
yeah.
It's a time.
So
So
it's not the hardest Nightfall. There's the Grandmaster
which
beyond
is
this,
the
which
next
is
step
the one that
above. Yeah.
we're mostly talking about. But let's kind of talk about, well, first of all, let's kind of explain what strikes are, I guess. How would you explain a strike to like a
So
newbie?
to like yeah, way backpedal on all this. The game's main core activities are broken down essentially into like three different sections. So you have Crucible, you have Gambit, and then you have Strikes. And Crucible is done player versus player. Gambit is the hybrid of both of those, and then Strikes are just strictly PVE. You go into a set instance. You go through different encounters. Sometimes you even have to deal with different like in-game mechanics, and then from there you go and at the end fight a boss, and then you get loot and rewards, and then that's a strike. They're usually relatively challenging at this point. If you're a long-time player, it's most strikes are kind of a cakewalk. If you're brand new and just kind of have like a wacky loadout, or just like you're in blues with like a legendary or two, like they might be a little tough, honestly. And that's kind of like the weird state of the game where it's like some things are like really challenging and other things are kind of like meh. And like that's maybe something we'll get into a little bit here. But essentially, strikes are you going against a PVE challenge, strictly you versus the game. And then with
Well, you plus two others.
you plus two others. Sorry, yeah.
It's a
So
three-man activity.
yes. So much like most of the game, for this stuff, Bungie has a strong love affair with the number 3 for having people running activities. And so it's you and two other people, whether they be blueberries, aka randos, or teammates. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay. Um, well, while you're fixing your stuff,
Sorry. So professional.
I know. So there's different difficulties of strikes, you know, since they have been around since the game came out. So we've had some of the same strikes for a chunk of time.
Long time.
A chunk of time. I can remember though, like when I first started playing Destiny and then like D2 also, it can be very intimidating to like go into strikes because if you don't know the mechanics, it's not like you don't get an instruction manual of like, hey, this is how you do this strike. It's like you go in there and you're like, and you have to just kind of like figure it out. And so
Wing it. Monkey see, monkey do even.
yeah. I think like it's safe to say strikes are kind of like, I guess, a lightweight like dungeon. I mean, it's comparable to like little dungeons in like WoW and stuff like that. Like,
now we can make that comparison. I think that's maybe more apt because like dungeons is a word in this game now too, and it's like a little hard to put that comparison point in there because I'd say like dungeons are like a mini raid and like it kind of like builds.
But I mean,
itself,
they all like kind of add up to be a raid, I guess. Like if this was like a stepping stone, it's like you would go to strikes first, then you would move to dungeon, then you would move to raid if you were like trying to progress in like difficulty and just like
absolutely.
So strikes are like where it starts, and strikes originally we just had normal strikes, and then
so typically like on a planet you're gonna have a planet specific strike. So like there'll be something in the E to Z, there'll be something on Mars, there'll be something out in the Tangled Shore. Like, there's a strike kind of on every destination. So it's kind of ideally, and this is what WoW, to have a comparison point, WoW usually does this too, where it's like you go to a zone and then that like quest line usually culminates in this like experience where you go into a dungeon with like a crew of people to then go like take out the big bad that's like residing there to like help out the people. And that's sort of lightweight a tie-in to what Bungie does here in their strikes. I'd say that's like pretty fair, honestly. Like,
Yeah, most of them are like spliced in the campaign. I think there's only a couple that are just kind of like standalone strikes that were added like later, but it's because like they were PlayStation exclusives and then they just gave them to us. But like
yeah,
pretty much every strike has been you know, something that you play during the campaign. And that's just what they've always been. You can they're nice, like they're part of, you know, the strike playlist for the week. So to get you know, your pinnacles and all of your nice rewards, you have to do 3 strikes
of the
every week.
matching weekly burn. So say it's a solar burn, you gotta run a solar subclass, arc subclass, so on and so forth. Well, I guess the last would be void and void subclass, so there we go, covered it. But
So but let's kind of talk about the Nightfalls. I mean,
yes,
Nightfalls are a souped up version of the strikes.
the usual,
And
yes.
and they used to be different. You used to actually get a card that you could set the different burns and the
modifiers,
the modifiers. That's the
both
word I'm
the
looking
light
for.
difficulty and like the other negative and positive modifiers that you can throw on there.
Because one of the things with Nightfall is you're going for points, and there's another pinnacle you can get every week is to get 100k Nightfall. So that means you get 100,000 points within the strike. So the old card modifier used to be able to pick what modifiers you wanted, whether they worked for you or against you, and depending on which ones you picked, it would up the multiplier of your points. So you could make it super super hard and go in there, or you could make it like
A cakewalk and
easy
just get it
enough
done.
that you could get 100k and be okay, or you know, challenge yourself. So it was pretty fun because like I think having control over like your modifiers and be able to just like kind of set up a silly like scenario was fun,
Yeah.
but I just don't think it was really used that much, honestly.
It was used pretty well, and like the thing is like that was like our so in year to like once again roll back Nightfalls even further. Year 1 of Destiny 2, there were certain mechanics built into it where I think you either had to shoot oracles during your Nightfall
gosh.
time, you had to
Yeah.
literally grab orbs or like jump through hoops, and then I think there might have been another time adding mechanic. But through and through, those were the ways, because you got like 17 minutes, and the clock immediately started counting down. And if you didn't finish the strike within that time frame, that was it. You're done. You didn't get another chance. You just got booted to orbit. Had to try again. So even if you're at the boss, like 2% health left, and that clock ticks to 0, tough. You're done.
See you later.
Yeah, so
get out of here, try again.
that was not well received, and I think
No, that was a rough time.
once they were released within like the first like month or 2 of them coming out, they adjusted it to like get rid of that mechanic. They still had like, you know, I think they gave us a bigger chunk of time. I think they gave us like 20-25 minutes to like start knocking out strikes, or they might have adjusted the clock altogether. I'm a little fuzzy on that part, but
I can't remember very
they
well.
adjusted that, and then shortly after that, I'm not sure if it's when Forsaken dropped or not, but they gave us what is the 5 of Swords card, which is the thing you've been talking about, Katya. So, Joe, you like that mechanic? I hated it. It was such a time crunch. This is where the suckfest happens in this strike, by the way.
I think the time crunch was hard because it was when everything was new and you didn't know the strikes. Like,
Yeah.
I think now if they were to add that, like, it would be no big deal because, like, you know, you're familiar with the strikes, you know where like enemies are, and you know like where to use your supers and stuff. But like, it was just like
Oh my gosh.
a
Joe,
nightmare.
That's wild. Yeah. No, and like I think and I think to your point now, Katya, is like since we have experience and like such knowledge of like most of these strikes, and like once again, like this strike in particular is different because they had it a few weeks ago, and then it was like bugs, so the power level instead of being like what it should have been at like 10 something, it's like all 750, so you could just like run through it no problem.
Oh my gosh.
They had to pull it, and that's where it got adjusted to a different strike. But this strike is brand new, so it's like, as you'll see me just kind of like feeling my way through it. Like I've never had to do this way because like champion mods are new since Shadowkeep, and so all of the encounters and mechanics, and we'll get into that, are like a little bit different. So, but to go back, evolution was basic strikes, time mechanics. People did not like that much. They changed that, and then we got Five of Swords, which, like Katya explained, you can adjust literally everything, like your power handicap or your power benefit. Like you can boost up your power level to go do Nightfall with that Five of Swords. Back in the heyday, you could have positive modifiers, you could have negative modifiers, and you could always throw in a burn as well.
You can still use the cards too, can't you?
You can, but it's neutered.
But they don't
from
count
what it
towards
was.
the 100k Nightfall or anything
No,
like that.
no, and there's a
And-
separate strike section that you can pick from now too to do all that.
Yeah, so you can still mess around with it, but I don't think the points count for the high score either for like the emblems and stuff. So it's more, I guess, I don't even know if it tracks your points in it now. Honestly, I don't remember.
You
the
still
last
get
time we've even
points.
done
You
one.
still get
do?
points in it, yeah.
Okay, so you can still do it for yourself and like go check it out and whatever. But it's just gonna be for you and nothing
Yeah.
else at that point. So.
Well, and then this kind of brings us back up to speed with Shadowkeep's introduction of the Nightfall Ordeal, which is a singular strike selected for the week that they put some pretty tough modifiers with the addition now, once again, as I keep referencing it, since Shadowkeep of champion mods, and you'll see like throughout this strike playthrough, you'll see the circle guys, which are the overload champions. Not featured here are the barrier guys with the triangles that kind of put like a little bubbly reddish dome over themselves. And then the unstoppable guys, which you will see a little bit later. But those are the three additional enemy variants, I think is probably the best way to say it. That they've thrown into it since the Shadowkeep DLC. And that is kind of what the Nightfall deals are about, is sort of making your way through the Nightfall with a pretty brutal set of modifiers, and taking out these now new champion mods and making sure, if you want the best rewards, cleaning up every single one of the champion mods in the strike to then get the best rewards by the end of the Nightfall Ordeal. So,
Well, and another thing that makes it interesting is that the artifact that we get each season dictates what weapons actually have
yes.
the modifiers on them. So like one season, you can get really comfortable having like your trusty SMG to burst down all those barriers, and then what is it this season?
Yeah.
It's now auto rifles. Oh, it's SMGs this season still, and then you can use Ariana's Vow as the exotic to break barriers, but like
right, and we've been given tools along the way if you've stuck with this year of content here to do all this stuff.
Well, let's kind of start from the top of like just the difficulty levels and like what each of them kind of entails, I think is.
Yeah, so like we said, you get basic strikes each planet, then there's a strike playlist, then you can pick your Nightfalls, and then or you can do the Nightfall Ordeal. With the Nightfall blah blah blah, red leather, yellow leather. With the Nightfall Ordeal, what you get is 4 or 5 different difficulty options.
It's 1, 2, 3,
It's
4, 5.
5, yeah. So we have, and we'll go through them, but you have Adept, you have Hero, you have Legend, you have Master, and then new edition is Grandmaster. And they definitely scale in their difficulty in that order. So do you want to take it away with talking about
Sure.
what's packing in these?
Well, with Adept, it's the light level is 750. There's a rare chance to get an exotic, and there's an uncommon chance to get enhancement cores. And then there's usually one modifier that's active for Adept. So it's like the entry level, like,
Get your
hey,
toes wet.
gotta try this out, see what's going on, see what this is about. But that's pretty much, if you're like a new light player, don't you start at 750 now?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you pick up the game for free, even, which by the way, Destiny 2 is free to play. Wow, to me. Get a
Yeah.
lot out of that too. That's another thing, honestly, we should probably talk about soon. seeing as how the
Put on the list.
DLC is coming out. Yeah, but like that's a whole other thing to unpack. But yeah, game as you start in, you begin at 750 power level, so you could immediately just hop in. The other benefit is the bottom 2 ranks of the Nightfall Ordeal. If you don't feel comfortable with Nightfalls, if you're not sure what to expect, totally match made. You don't have to like seek out an LFG for strangers. You can if you want, or bring a buddy along if you have them. But it's totally match made. So like you can go in by yourself, bring whatever you feel comfortable with, and then go and play the Nightfall Ordeal. Oh my gosh, I can't say that word today.
So from adept we go to the hero, which is your light level has to be at least 1020. And again, you get exotics are uncommon, enhancement cores are uncommon, and then they add enhancement prisms to the loot pool, which are also uncommon. You'll have 2 of the 3 champion mods, and those are the ones that Huck talked about earlier, the barrier, the unstoppable, and the overload. So 2 of those will be active, and it's just it'll tell you like when you choose the playlist like which ones, so that you can get your loadouts ready for it. And then there'll be a strike specific boss mod, like there'll be increased elemental damage or some kind of environmental effect.
Yeah.
So that's like the extra push if something like, uses like a shield bursty on you or stuff like that. So, and then once you get up to the next difficulty, it's the legend difficulty, which is for light level 1050. That's when matchmaking goes away. And so that's where you have to have friends or do it yourself
and challenge yourself with a tough time.
And also on this mode, your equipment becomes locked, so you can't change your loadout once you go in. So it's good to kind of think that over before you go in. And for this one, it's pretty common to get exotics for a reward, and then uncommon to get the enhancement prisms. It's match game in there, so that means your weapons need to match the shield type that you need to burst.
So like
otherwise you're gonna waste ammo.
Yeah, so typically also with that too, and this is why it's like such an important thing to pay attention to, you can usually muscle your way through, like say you have a nice void weapon that you like, but there's a lot of arc shield, you can usually just bully those enemies and like pop their shields. But with match game, that is a deal breaker option. There's not a chance of that.
They'll still break, but like it takes so much work and so much ammo. It's just not worth it.
You will waste your entire ammo surplus trying to pop one shield. So you really do have to like match arc with arc, void with void, solar with solar, which makes it tough in planning these things, especially if you do it solo.
And with that one, there's also 2 strike specific boss mods that are happening along with all of that other stuff. So those ones can be difficult. I definitely feel like Legend at like the beginning of each season, when you go in to be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do the hard one on Legend and like check this out. It's a rough time. Usually getting used to it. So
well, because we've all
because you're low light and like you just want to go give it a try. Because to get 100k, you have to be doing Legend and up, right?
There's some I mean there might be a way if you have like a hyper competent group going into like something like the hero difficulty ordeal or something like that. Like you might be able to like muscle your way into like 100k, but I don't find it very likely, and that's because from hero, legend, and master and grandmaster, legend, master, and grandmaster. Sorry. Those are when like the multipliers for the strikes are so much higher because the difficulty is amped by the power requirement for that, and then on top of that, it's the modifiers also then bake in like a multiplier for you to work with too. So it's a both and of why if you want to go for the 100k, it's better to do it at the higher difficulties for those reasons. So
like you can see here on the HUD if you're watching this, but down at the bottom right hand corner, it has the 0.85x, and that means that's the multiplier of points for everything that he's doing.
And at this point,
the counter for how long he's been in there.
Sorry.
And that's why like his points are constantly like fluctuating because like when he gets kills he gets points, but because he's past, you know,
I'm over time at this point.
Is
Yeah.
it 25 minutes you get, or is it 20?
I think it might even it's either 25 or something in between 20 and 25 is like the cutoff time
Yeah,
frame.
so once
For most
you get
any
past that
ordeal.
time, every second takes away
So
points
your
from you.
your point multiplier is halved, and then you start hemorrhaging points, and then at a certain point, it might even be 30 minutes. We'll see in a little bit. Like you'll see my multiplier goes to 0, and I'll start really getting chunked for points. Excuse me. So yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about what you get from the 1080 from the master?
Yeah, so from the master level difficulty here, everything, so if you've noticed as we talk about this, everything gets amped. The difficulty gets amped, but then so does the reward value gets amped. So if you're doing a 1080 master level Nightfall, exotics are common, which I think both of us and our friends can attest to. Like, one of us is guaranteed to get at least one exotic. Sometimes we even get two. Enhancement prisms are pretty common. We'll usually come away with 2 to 3. I don't know if we've gotten more than that from those.
I don't think so.
And then ascendant shards, which are, we like to more colloquially call them golf balls, because that's kind of what their little emblem looks like.
Because a shard is not an orb. Hello.
I know, it's really confusing. I like ascendant scale. I think would be a really cool name for them, and like they look more like a scale than they do like a fucking shard. That's just my own personal thing. But you have a low chance, an uncommon chance of getting one of those. And what's important about those, if you have a set of legendary armor or an exotic piece of armor that you are super in love with, that's the final upgrade material piece that you need. The prisms are the thing that are kind of like the middle ground to upgrade your armor with. As you kind of like, so the reason why it's good to do these Nightfalls too, and what's the driving force, is exactly for these resources and the chance at exotics. But like, you don't really get Ascendant Shards outside of the Ordeal Nightfalls and going flawless in Trials, and then the other source is from the Season Track. Like, those are your only sources of Ascendant Shards. So, get good
Or
at PvP or get good at
can
Ordeal Nightfalls.
You can buy Ascendant shards with enhancement prisms,
True. So if you
but
don't,
it's very costly.
yeah, it costs 10 prisms and other bells and whistles to get some shards as well.
To get one shard. It's
Shard.
yeah, it's a very hefty price. So.
And if you're doing, once again, the master level Nightfalls, and you're getting 2 to 3 on average, right? Like, you can start seeing kind of like, oh, that is a big price to pay. So if you run
you've got to run this 4 times.
4 of these to maybe have enough.
Yeah.
Like, that adds up pretty quick there. So, yeah, to roll into it, still no matchmaking for this. That's ceased since the hero level. And then on top of that, for this level of the Nightfall, which was the hardest that we had for a long time, but there are more champion mobs that you have to deal with, so there's more barrier, there's more unstoppable, there's more overload mobs tucked in here, so you have to be even more cognizant of like who has what for their modifiers on their weapons and their armor to like deal with these different champions and whatnot, to get, once again, the high tier rewards. So then it's a whole system that kind of feeds back in on itself there. On top of that, there are usually one extra negative modifier that adds into it. Usually is not fun. Usually deals with your health regen. Yeah, that's, I mean, sorry, I'm got distracted by reading a note real quick. That in the gist, it like just it ever increases to become more and more difficult as you progress in the Nightfall this year. So sorry, stumbling a little bit there. Do you want me to talk about Grandmasters?
Yeah.
Okay. So with Grandmasters, this is kind of like the big kahuna and everything that you've done to fight through Nightfall ordeals and like get a feel for the strike with that culminates in this. It has its own host of mods, and has a new set of difficulty challenges built into it. A little fun fact here: we totally forgot to make note of what the rewards are. Officially, I can say with a lot of certainty though that like I'm pretty sure it's Ascended Shards and Exotics are both
Common.
I think Exotics are common, and then the Shards are like uncommon. They've gone from like extremely rare to like uncommon, if not common. So it's you have a higher chance at these like better end game rewards. Essentially, is what it boils down to. But the real trick of the Grandmaster Nightfall is it follows suit in what is sort of like the day one raid like contest mode. So once again, your loadouts are locked, but your light value, like your power value, as you go into it, completely locked as well. So you could be say you've ground out the season crazy, you love it, you've gotten super strong with your artifact. Your power could be at like say 27 for your artifact and your max level, so that put you at like 1087, right? For this season, no matter what, however you get there to this power level, you're capped at 1075. The strike itself has now become 1100, so 1100 in its power difficulty, so you're at a negative delta. You're at a delta of 25. So the difference between what you can maximum go into and what you're going to fight will always be a 25 power difference, which is spicy. On top of that, the mods that we have in there are pretty gross. Match game still exists. There are more shielded enemies tucked in there. Once again, you have the extra champion mods as well. Your loadout's locked, you cannot join in progress. So that's the contest mode part. Apart from that, you have the strike-specific boss modifiers, so it benefits the boss. So some lightweight burn, and then like either like a pushback or knockback effect, or some other nasty rude thing that they throw in there to make bosses even stronger. And there's usually some other negative modifier, but at this point they aren't toying with your health regen and stuff, so you won't see attrition, I don't think. You won't see togetherness. You won't see these other modifiers that make it that much more difficult, because already you're working at a, once again, 25 power level delta, which is like pretty huge, plus all these other things. So they kind of tone it back on that, but like upscale it on everything else. And so,
did you talk about the limited revives?
Yes, no, and that might be the pièce de resistance for Grandmaster Nightfalls. It makes it so brutal. Is you have a collective pool for your fire team of 3 to revive
4.
with.
You start with 4.
No, I was saying, but your fire team of 3 people has
Oh, okay.
only
Sorry,
so
sorry,
many.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, you only get 4 revives to start. Every time you defeat a champion mob, so an overload boyo, a barrier boyo, a unstoppable boyo, that is when you get an extra revive added to your pool. So you can die, but you also have a chance of getting those revives back. But
Does it stack past 4? We've never.
Yes, it does. It stacks. No. It stacks well past 4.
Okay,
Katya, we're
good.
professionals, please. How dare you?
Oh my gosh. Oh man. We tried it the
Lake of
the
Shadow.
week that it was the corrupted. Oh my gosh.
Did
we weren't
do
prepared.
The corrupted? Oh, we did.
We tried
that was
it.
Our first attempt.
Tried
yeah.
it. And the elevator, like did we ever get past the elevator?
No.
I don't think we did.
I don't think
Oh
we
my
did.
gosh. It was rough,
don't
but
think we did.
that was also before like we both had anarchy and some of the other treasures we have now.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Some of
I
the
feel like when it
tools.
comes around again, we'll probably do a little better. But
We'll be better set. But that was also, I think, the first Grandmaster of the season too.
yeah.
Which is like
which I
that's-
want to gripe about that for
one
a minute.
hell of a fucking wake up call. It's literally one of the hardest strikes to do, specifically for the entire boss encounter. But then on top of that, like for that to being the opening new Taken-ified champion mob strike, which is what we got with this season. We haven't had Taken strikes and Taken mobs as champions until this particular strike. It was brutal.
It was
tough.
it was super rough. But I just want to like make a call out to Bungie right now and tell them how horrible it is that they make you be a like set light level to go into Grandmaster, because last season is when they introduced Grandmaster, and with that they put a new title that's available. You get the Conqueror title, and I really wanted that, and I did not really play much of last season. So like in the last 3 weeks or something, I tried really hard to get my light level up so that I could just go into the stupid Grandmaster. And guess what? I was like 2 points short, and then the season was over. And I was so upset because like it caps your light anyways. So like I shouldn't have to be at I don't know. It just was
your ticket in is also like your limiter, which is like really a strange way to do it. Like it makes sense in adding it into like the challenge of it. Like, okay, if you want to go do literally the highest, most difficult PvE activity, I would argue, because like raids are up there, but like this is something on next level shit.
Yeah, this is tough because it's not. I mean, it's not mechanics. It's more like ad control and your ability to survive and also like adapt and use your weapons in smart ways and conserve ammo.
Yeah. No,
absolutely. It's everything. It's everything. Like there's nothing to fall back on. There's not like an oh crap button, just somebody pop their super. Like that's not going to save you in here. Yeah. It's hard. It's really difficult.
Well, and that's where I'll say, like, I think that's where the mechanics come in, where it's like you're solving a puzzle made out of mobs, right? So like who has what element,
it's like
who has
how
what
to
modifier.
Take it out. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So like
and it's the more times you run it, and like it was really smart. Like yesterday we were doing like a pre-run, and so we went and did the 1080 with Paul, and like that was super smart because that gives you an idea of like where the champion's going to spawn, what are they, what burns are we going to run into, like you know, it just kind of gives you like that nice peek of like what to expect, and just kind of almost like a warm-up match of like okay cool, like all right, now we're ready to do like, you know, the next one, the Grandmaster. But it's just, but even the 1080, like even this with the 1080, like we got through it like fine, but like we had quite a few deaths, and like there were parts that were like pretty tough.
There's a few struggle spots,
yeah, but this, it really is, it just like becomes like, okay, what are the like the targets that we need to focus on first? And it's like, you know, the Cyclops will one-shot you and destroy you, so it's like if there's a Cyclops, everybody needs to try to get the Cyclops, or you know, if there's an Unstoppable, we need to get that Unstoppable stunned. And it's just like being able to be smart about how to handle the mobs. And so I think that is,
it's the biggest challenge of like doing any of these ordeals is like how are you organizing it and then prioritizing your progress through this activity.
And I think like sometimes our friends think we're like kind of nerdy and over the top, because like when we go to do Nightfalls, we like sit there for like a few minutes and we're like, okay, like what subclass are you gonna run,
and
like what weapon do you think, oh do you think maybe this, oh maybe that, oh maybe, and like that we just do like a little like pre-game huddle of like how will this work, but but like in all honesty, like we succeed because we plan ahead usually.
But in that time,
yeah, and so I don't know, I think that's part of the fun part of the more difficult Nightfalls too for me, is just like trying to figure out the loadout that works for you and your teammates and how they can complement each other. And like I think when we were running it with Paul, it was funny, like Huck, you had like a solar energy and a solar heavy, and then me and Paul both had void and arc, like, and so you know, we all had to like take turns, like, oh I got this arc shield, oh I got this one, you know. And like it's just, I don't know, it's just fun, it just makes it more challenging, and it almost like forces you to cooperate and like work as a team, because if you don't, you know, there's not one person isn't going to be able to just like carry you through this, you know, like you need everybody to like do their
everyone
part,
needs to be on board. It really
there's so many mobs and like stunning the champions and everything. It's just, you can't do it by yourself if you're Huck level like champion person, but like it's rough. It's a
Well, even
rough
so,
day.
like this is my first attempt. This is like basically the second time I've done this level of the strike, and so
Hmm.
this is like what I'll call my first attempt doing this solo, and it fucking sucks. Joe, I love that. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. It's really good.
The six P's.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we follow the six P's. That is our new mantra. Um, yeah, but it's well, let's just talk about real quick this season, what our lovely artifact, what weapons it gave us to take on these champion mobs.
Yeah.
Because some of them are great, let me tell you.
So, this host of things, and like maybe even to backpedal a little bit further, um, for this particular strike, also, you need everything. You need all elements. So you need some solar, you need mostly void, and you need an in-between level of arc between those two. And like, if you don't have those, you're gonna have a tough time doing this. But as far as like the tools that they give you to deal with champion mobs in this, we have for the weapons. So each season, particular weapons are highlighted to be able to use and have a set of champion combating modifiers. So this season we have for barriers we have auto rifles, SMGs to deal with barriers. But with that too, if you don't have it, I highly suggest there's like some exotic cipher type of thing you get. I think from the season. You should
From the
go,
season track.
yeah, from the season track. Do yourself a favor, and if you do not own it, pick up Ariana's Vow. It is one of the strongest and best PvE exotic weapons in the game, bar none. Like that in of itself, the punch you get, the range you get, the fact that it's a solar energy weapon, and it acts like a low grade sniper, but it's like a hand cannon, so you can shoot. It's just like there's a lot going for it. It's a fantastic PvE weapon in general. Do yourself a favor, pick that up. That's the one exotic that will always be able to deal with barriers. Moving on to Unstoppables. This season, they did something different, which I really hope we see more of. But we have pulse rifles to have the Unstoppable mod, hand cannons as well. And then the two exotics of Leviathan's Breath and Devil's Rune, which is a sidearm. So Leviathan's Breath is that big, heavy shukunk kind of bow. It hits like a truck. It's a very good exotic for Unstoppables because it will very much so stop them. And then, this is where I fail in the strike. And it's a very sad time. But and then Devil's Rune, which is a solar sidearm, which hits a lot harder than I ever expected it to. But with this season, they gave us an armor modifier to put Unstoppable for pulse rifles on our arms. So you don't have to have on the Unstoppable mod or mod on your pulse rifle itself, which is usually how you have to enact the ability for champion mods to be, dealt with. Is like you put it on that gun. Cool. Now that gun can deal with Unstoppable. It can deal with Overload. It can deal with Barrier. You can put it on your arms and have whatever extra mod on your pulse rifle. So it frees up that weapon slot for you to like better utilize your weapon more so than just having to deal with champion mobs. So that's like something that's really cool and kind of frees you up to like play around. Like you can use exotic pulse rifles. So like if you have Outbreak Perfected, it is an exceptional pulse rifle to use Unstoppable with because you get all the benefits of Outbreak, plus now it stuns those champions, which is like, honestly, it's huge.
That's my favorite thing, like this season, because Outbreak is like my baby that I love to use all the time,
Yeah.
and being able to use it as Unstoppable has been like the best thing ever, and I love it so much.
And what's nice
But
is like, oh, sorry, please.
oh, I was gonna say, for anybody that doesn't know, when we're mentioning these exotics, specifically like Leviathan's Breath and Ariana's Vow and Devil's Ruin, they have these. The modifiers are built into them,
Intrinsically
so, like,
built into the exotics.
that's why they work,
Yeah.
and they're so wonderful. Like they're always gonna do that. It doesn't matter like what season it is and
what
what the
happens to
artifact
champion
dictates,
mods. Yeah.
that's they're always going to work for those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's like pretty cool about them.
And we mention these because they are things, if you want to get or have yourself, you can build loadouts around having these things, which is like, it's honestly, it once again adds to like the interesting loadouts and freedom of like putting on different modifiers and stuff like that, to deal with these strikes. And like that's part of the thing that I really enjoy about doing the Nightfall ordeals, is we always have to like think and plan and like adjust and like change things up as we see fit to like make sure we're best prepared to do all this stuff. So but to finish up the wrap up here, so overload circle, as I like to call it too, the modifiers for the weapons that we have for that are going to be bows, hand cannons, and sidearms. And if you have done the pretty tough challenge but very rewarding of getting divinity, that is also another exotic that has the intrinsically baked into it overload perk. It is a arc trace rifle that also adds it makes a giant crit spot for on the enemy. So like no matter what you're shooting at it, it's going to crit on that enemy if you have divinity, creating that like vexy orb thing that like entraps it. But divinity, you have to do a few quest steps to get through, and then on top of that, you have to do a one and done
Intense
through and
puzzle.
through, yeah, like puzzle throughout Garden of Salvation raid, like step by step. And like you can't save it, you can't checkpoint, you can't like do some and then come back, like leave and then come back. You have to do it all in one sweep. So it's definitely a big get. I don't expect everyone to have this. In fact, I think it's one of the like rare exotics to have, unless you've like LFG and got it yourself. Like congrats, kudos, like you've done the hard work to get it, but it's a toughie. So
I want to say PS WTF to Bungie, hand cannons and sidearms this season for Overload. Like every Overload dude is like a freaking snipey like loser that's way out far away. I'm never gonna hit it with a hand cannon or
Or
sidearm. Why would you do that to
a
me?
berserking maniac who's just gonna keep rushing at you. Like they're like a low-key unstoppable nerd who like just will just be like, I'm gonna fight you, and you're like, I don't want this, and like I'm gonna fight you, and it's like okay.
Even hand cannons, like I'll give a like slight pass to, but sidearms, like what? Like who's gonna rush that? What maniac plays like that?
Like, especially the distance, and especially like this level of difficulty, it makes it tough. What's interesting is they gave us a lot of like neat seasonal perks to work with too. Oh, this is where I just fall off the map too. That was a fun moment.
My gosh.
I was falling apart at this point. But something that also is interesting is they've given us different mods in this season to like, and they're not going away with the season. There's just mods that we have now, I think. But they boost, like you have like a sidearm booster. So like if you ready to reload your sidearm with this particular mod, you get like bonus damage, which is like crazy for like 5 shots. So like you have that plus overload, you can like stun them and then like shred them with a sidearm. And like that, I've done this for these ordeals before, and like it's nutty how effective they can be. And so like it's weird because some of these mods do force me to think about like, well, if they're giving us these tools, how can I use them? And like that's kind of like the weird puzzle aspect of all of this that like I really like, because it does make me think outside of the box of like, okay, this is what I'm comfortable with, but we don't have all of these items for us to use. How do I break out of my shell and like figure out what now to use with like what we have and see what works? And like sometimes utter failure. It's like, nope, this is bad. Time to go back.
Yeah,
and, like,
there's been so many times where I'm like, you gotta take us back to orbit. I can't do this.
Yeah,
Please,
yeah.
This was a bad choice.
Well, and me too. I'm just like, this is not working, you know. But then there's sometimes we're like, this is a goofy loadout. I don't know how well it's gonna work. And then we're like, it's so good. How have we not done this before?
My favorite is when we'll be like sitting in our vault, like looking through things and be like, oh, what about this? What about that? And then like one of us will be like, oh, I forgot about this gun. What about this? And we're like, oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
And we just
really
like
good.
get so excited about like some loadout we haven't used forever.
Some
and we're just
like
like,
wacky
this could be
thing.
awesome.
Like, oh, how did I forget about you, sweet baby boy prince? Oh my god.
It's really fun.
Come back into my embrace.
It's nice because, like, you know, like we're saying, like we haven't gotten many new strikes over time. So this new edition with the ordeals and the way that they've set it up and the way that the artifact changes every season, it's kind of fun and nice because we have to rethink how we approach, you know, the encounters each time because the weapons
Yeah.
change. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
forces
yeah.
you to go out of your comfort zone too, because like, you know, if I'm like just running whatever and like choosing my loadout, I'm usually always going to be like pulse fusion and then like whatever grenade launcher I just
Yeah.
decide to use. And I'm going to do that for everything because that's what I like to use. But like fusions don't do anything this season. So like I can't take that if I need to
Yeah.
take care of like shields or something else. And so, you know, you have to like then readjust. And I used to be the kind of player that like had a really hard time readjusting to other weapons. It's tough,
Yeah.
but
And
I think like it's been fun because it pushes you to try new things and just, you know, improve and get better and test things that you might not have done before. Like I wouldn't have ever
absolutely.
really used sidearms, but like they've been really fun this season because they did add those mods. Like it's I don't know. I think it's
Cool
cool
Brad.
that it's kind of like forcing people to explore more, I guess. I
Right.
guess people that play like I do. I'm very like I get used to something and I like
You
to
know
just
what you
keep
like, you
doing
know it
that.
works, and you stick with it, which is like
Yeah.
that's. I mean, that's kind of at the heart of what the game offers us. Is like go out, seek out these weapons, get what you like, and then bring it wherever you want to go. You know, and like that's when the game I think is like firing on its best. Like you know, rhythm is just like when it's able to live in that space of like, hey, this thing that I love to use, I can bring it wherever I want. I feel great about it. You know.
Yeah. But I like to not be a one-trick pony also. So.
True. Yeah. No. And I think that's a lot of what this season in particular and last season has done, especially with this activity. Is like, oh, what things can I do? Because like I think it was earlier in this season in particular, I got a Velocodon, which is like a high RPM auto rifle. I'm like,
It's like
this
the
seems
one of the
so
hardest ones.
funny, but like I like the build of it, and like we need some barrier stuff, and like we don't always need like void because like recluse is typically my like barrier answer. I was like, let me try this thing. I was like, it was delicious and delightful, and it works so well. I was like, this is great, and like that's the kind of stuff where like it almost sheds a new light on weapons that like you said, like, oh my god, how have I forgotten about this? Like
Why
how have I
didn't I
never
use
tried this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Because if you're any Destiny player, you've got a vault full of weapons that
if you're any
have
long-term Destiny player,
good rolls on them that
yeah.
you put in your vault because they're good and you never used it again. So
Maybe one day,
maybe one day.
is
This
usually
is now your one day.
as you're pressing A or like you know right click or whatever it is to like send it to your vault. It's just like or X. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm being inclusive. I don't. Who cares what state he uses? But
One thing about the super duper challenges for for Master and Grandmaster and Legend also, I wish that they had a champion counter because there is
yes.
a caveat to get like the best rewards for the run, you have to get all of the champions within the strike. So you can't skip champions just because you're like, oh, I don't want to take this guy out. I don't have the right like weapon for him or whatever. Like for everyone you skip, your rewards go down. Like your
Yeah,
chances
I mean,
of good rewards.
here's the
So.
thing. You like that's it though. Like that's the trade-off. Is like you absolutely can skip whoever you want whenever you want. But like if you do that, by the end of it, like you might be a sad panda. You know. But
So, but other than that, I really enjoy like the Nightfalls and the Ordeal, and it's been really fun for us. It's kind of like our thing we like to do is go try to two-man them, and like you know we've been fairly
very
successful.
I'd say very successful in everything outside of Grandmasters because that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is like no joke, like an actual kick in the
It
pants to do it.
is. It is a rough day. It's hard business. So yeah, we
Yeah.
have yet to two-man a Grandmaster, but someday. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know anything else that I really want or need to say about Nightfalls. I don't know about you.
No, I mean I think largely we've covered it. And like Joe, to your point too, like I think what's funny about doing these Nightfalls too is like I've looked through my vault and been like I see that this is a good roll on a weapon. I have never shot this thing. I have no intention of shooting it now. I should probably just get rid of it. And like there are some weapons that I've done that with too, and like I think that's what's been interesting about this is like it's helped me clear up my vault. I think a little bit, and like trying to figure out loadouts and stuff, because like usually what I'm gonna use is already on my character. If not, I know it's on like my vault or like another character. And so, but yeah, I think that's another funny thing that's kind of like a weird side tangent of this experience.
Well, I think that now that we kind of have an idea of like what the high-end content is in the game, it gives you a better idea of like what to keep around and like what to look for as far as like weapons and things like that, because like we can look at our artifact at the beginning of the season and see which weapons are going to be needed for, you know, the different like modifiers and things like that. And so it's like you can right out the gate be like, okay, well this season it's going to be, you know, trace rifles that are going to be like super good because they're going to like be the barrier breakers. So you can then like be like, I'm going to go try to get good trace rifles, or like I better go do that exotic quest I never did, you know, like it's just you can prepare. So I think it's cool how they're doing it. It just makes it so that you can be prepared and then also achieve with, you know, work and diligence and
right with whatever weapons and loadouts and stuff. So and Brad, that is like probably our biggest critique of doing this, and like it would be such a small but like wonderful quality of life update is if they did give us like some sort of counter for
how many
champions we've like busted and all that, because like it really is like we've done some Nightfalls where like, awesome, like we crushed that, we breezed through it, like we took care of everything, we fought it, and it's like gold rewards. It's like what?
We won platinum. Why?
Where did we miss?
Where did we miss?
And there's no indicator of that, and like, you know, and I guess like you can be more diligent and cognizant of like, you know, like as you enter certain rooms and encounters, it'll be like a champion spawn. Sometimes it's like 4 shoot up and like it fades on, and it's just like
the text on the game goes so quickly for Xbox. That is also like one of my main gripes. It's like things go off really quickly and you can't keep up with it, and it's like I guess okay. And another thing is like I think like champions that we've missed have always been really weird things where they like fell off the map and we don't have any way of doing anything about that. So
absolutely. And the other thing too is like, as we found out in one of these strikes, but like the wanted enemy that is usually tucked into strikes, and that's for destination triumphs and stuff like that, is sometimes considered a champion mob, which is like very odd because they don't have any of the modifiers, but they're like somehow looped into that like category of enemies to fight, which is just bizarre.
I don't know that that's like accurate though, because like now, because people have said like, oh no, like we didn't kill the champion in some of them, where like we've been like, oh, but we had to kill him in another one, and I almost wonder if that was like an instance where like when we, you know, skipped it or whatever, that like we actually missed a champion that fell off the map, or like it's just hard to know like what's expected because we don't know. We know we're supposed to kill all the champions, but like it's just like, okay, well. But
I was wondering about this when I fully threw smoke in my face and it didn't make me invisible, and like I could have sworn I threw smoke and didn't do anything, and like I'm sorry, I'm just watching it now, I'm like, what the heck? So and Brett, like that's something that I think like the game needs overall. Bungie understandably is like terrified of giving numbers for things, and like it just kills my heart, because it's like, what does it mean that like I have better aim assist when I put on target adjuster? What does it mean that rampage lasts longer? Like, how long do I have rampage in the first place? Like, what does it mean that counterbalance is worked in there? Like, what does that actually affect? And like, as it turns out, it's not stability, it's your recoil direction, which is a stat that isn't displayed in game. So it's just like, yes, I would love percentages of like, what does it mean to have like uncommon, common, rare, like super common, like whatever it might be, like for your rewards and stuff.
Actually have a breakdown of what's going on.
A pool, even a pie chart. I'd love a pie chart. Pie's great. But there's a few little tweaks, but overall it's a great experience. If you haven't tried these ordeals yet and you're curious about it, I'd say absolutely go for it and just do what you can to like hit the 6 Ps. So
that's amazing. Well, I think with that, I think we might be finished.
I think so. We've done it again.
We won 4 times in a row. All right, guys. Well, Joe, Brad, thanks for hanging out with us and chiming in here and there. And thank you, Joe, for the 6 Ps, which we now have claimed as our own, because that's amazing. I think that's going to be it. So I hope you guys join us next time we put down the controller and share another AFK conversation. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at AFK Convos, as well as subscribe to AFK Conversations on YouTube. And don't forget to follow Mr. Huckleberry on Twitch so that you can catch our live broadcasts. We hope to see you around the next time we put the controller down and share another AFK conversation.